Taoiseach, I want to welcome your willingness to go to Ballymurphy and your support for the families there, and also the notion of putting together an Oireachtas motion. I think that's good. But I have to say, these issues are more serious than to have yourself, or indeed Dr. Martin, swapping, no matter how serious and genuine they may be, anecdotes about what's happening in the north and the suffering of victims' families. So of course, the suffering of all of the victims is the same. Family of an IRA volunteer, a British soldier, an RUC officer, an UDR officer, but most particularly of a civilian. All of those families feel the same way, and I say that as a family who have buried two family members, one victim of loyalist butchers, young guy coming from a traditional music station, left in the quarry, stabbed to death, and my brother-in-law who was shot to death by the British Army. I've been shot myself, although I don't see myself as a victim. So I think the government needs to go a wee bit further than what your responses have been, and your focus, and it's a tendency in here all the time to talk about the need for all the parties in the north. It's a refrain from Fianna Fáil and from your government, need for all of the parties in the north to engage. And you both know, Dr. Martin knows leadership role played by Martin McGuinness in the north, and you know that as well. And we know that the problem is that the unions, for reasons which I have articulated here in the past, and for reasons which I understand, though I don't accept, are the ones who don't want to engage fully. And you also know that Sinn Féin have signed up for the Haas and Megan O'Sullivan compromise proposals. You also should know that the British government have not. If you want to know why Peter Robinson or Meg Nesbitt haven't, it's because David Cameron hasn't. And we know from our experience in the process that unionist leaders, notwithstanding the support for all of these moves by unionist grassroots, but unionist leaders will only move when a British government lets them know that there's really little other option. And that has not been the case. But my arrest has brought some of these issues into sharp focus, but I've come in here. I've asked for a rational, reasoned debate on the past. I've asked for us to set aside our partisan views, our willingness to score points on a party political basis. When you talk about Ballymurphy, I'm from Ballymurphy. That's where I live. My family home, the home that I'm in, which isn't in the Ballymurphy estate, but is in the townland of Ballymurphy. I'm there nearly every weekend. Most of my family still live there. The people who were killed are my neighbours. So these are real issues for someone like me. And you see, the thing about Ballymurphy is this. The people there look to your government to do something about it, because they know that the British government will not do anything about it. So they look to your government to do something about it. The British Secretary of State made it very, very clear that there was a one-sided approach. This is our view. There's a one-sided approach on deaths in which the state was involved. And she made those remarks recently. So here's a question, Taoiseach. Did your government get notice of these remarks by her? And what did you do when you were told she was going to make this statement? She also dismissed, as you have noted, any notion of an inquiry, as the people of Ballymurphy have asked for, and indeed any notion of an inquiry into the Mont firebombing by the IRA. And again, did your government get notice of it? And what did you do? And if you didn't get notice, why didn't you get notice? Why weren't you told? These are hugely important, very, very significant statements. She also said that just last month about the institutions, that no one can plausibly argue that the institutions must be set in stone for all time. She said that her government would welcome moves that facilitate a more normal system at Stormont that allows for formal opposition. In other words, majority rule. Did you get notice of those remarks? If not, why not? And what was your response? What was the Taoiseach's response? And then we have The Guardian breaking the story about Prime Minister David Cameron hosting the DUP leadership to an engagement in the garden of Downing Street, and The Guardian described this as Mr Cameron playing the orange card, because the suggestion is that he's trying to make sure that following the next election that there's some courtship with the DUP should he depend, as happened with John Major, which famously left to the entire collapse of the process, that there would be unionist votes there for his government. So here you have it, Taoiseach, the British representative in the northern part of this island, northern part of our country, saying that the institutions aren't set in stone, and then saying that there's too much of a focus on killings by the state, and then dismissing a cause which you have given your support for. So what did you do about any of that? The Good Friday Agreement is the people's agreement. Now, maybe your government doesn't have any investment in it, but I would like to think, I guess you voted for it, and I guess Fine Gael and Labour came out in support of it. And under the terms of the agreement, you are the joint guarantor, along with the British government. Now, I have found, and I have worked with more Taoiseach on this matter than anybody else in this Dáil, I have found, with one or two exceptions, that Taoiseach are very deferential to the British, that they behave as junior partners. And okay, you have to raise an issue at a meeting, you have to raise an issue, but where's the strategy? Where's the proactive strategy? What is in place in terms of the recognition now that the process may be in some difficulties? All of these things are very, very predictable. And what it needs is a political and diplomatic defence of the peace process, led by this government. And we're prepared to acknowledge, I mean, the big shift in Sinn Féin, which many historians missed, was when we recognised the responsibility of the Irish government to be in the lead against and with the British government in terms of trying to carve out a peace process. There's a big matter which you noted as well around the 40th anniversary of the Dublin Monaghan bombings, and the British government persistently and consistently rejecting any motion, any appeal, any responsibility that it has to provide information on those matters. Let me come, and I'll conclude in this concord, you back to the issue of victims. See, Irish Republicans have acknowledged many times the hurt caused during the war. And you see, if Choctaw Martin stood up here and said, you know, this is Sinn Féin, he doesn't, but he has all these little sort of sleeving, sleekit, weasel words. It appears to be Sinn Féin. As far as I can see, it appears to me, as far as I've been able to ascertain. Let me be very, very clear about this. All the victims deserve justice, every single one, and particularly the victims of the Irish Republican Army. I say that as a Republican, because I can't rail against injustices inflicted by the British or others if I'm not taking the same consistent position in terms of those who were bereaved by people whose legitimacy I recognised, and both yourself and the leader of Fianna Fáil recognise the legitimacy of the IRA cause, but in another decade, somewhere you become revisionist in all of this. So I just want to be very, very, very clear that, one, it's the right moral thing to do. Two, it's the right peace process thing to do. And three, we understand, because we're from that, I am from that community. That's where I come from. So, having said all of that, we need to straighten these issues out. The peace process cannot be allowed to meander the road has too many pitfalls. There are too many powerful elements out there on the fringes of nationalism, within unionism, within the British system, who want to derail the process, to build obstacles to it. So the government needs to be seized for all the issues pressing down in your government and for all the pressing economic issues that impinge upon people's lives every single day. The people of this island and the diaspora and the international community believe in the peace process. So we need to be proactive and preemptive. It's in trouble. Graphically describing the distress of victims will not assist that, although I don't for a moment impinge upon your right to do that. What I want to know is, what's your plan? What's your strategy for holding the British government to account? I'll give you 3 examples by British government which has stepped right outside the terms of the Good Friday Agreement, for which you are a co-guarantor. I've asked you, did you have pre-notice of those remarks? And if not, why not? And what was your response to them?
Taoiseach. Thank Deputy Adams for the